Hello, Asylum. Tonight's cautionary tale comes from Ali on Reddit. It's called The Story of the Hollow Man. This is a story that my grandmother told me when I was younger. I don't know if you got told it, but it used to terrify me when I was little. Okay, so the story goes. On a dark and windy night back long ago off the coast of England lived a man. He was only in his 30s, but he was incredibly thin, almost too thin for his organs to fit. He wore a suit which kept everything together. He lived in a house that you could swear it talked to you in the wind, like silent whispers permeating the very air around the house like a curse. He seemed normal at first, even a kind man you would say when you first met him, but as time went on, you would start to notice things that were out of place. His eyes were a little too far apart, his nose sometimes too small for his face, and other times too large. It was never quite right, but the most haunting things were his eyes. You would never look into them when you spoke with him. You would always avoid eye contact. It was instinctual, like there was going to be something behind them. Like that feeling you get looking over a bridge, that voice that says, "Do it." You know that you should never do it, but that voice is always there, calling to you. My grandmother says she met this man. She didn't know his name, so she called him the Hollow Man because every interaction with him felt hollow and disingenuous. He could be having a toothy grin, but his voice would never change, never falter. It was like this was an act to the world that he had to display. Well, she says one day the Hollow Man left for a week and that house didn't utter a word. It became ordinary, like a house should be. The town felt lighter, like a great darkness had been lifted and people could now talk. And then he came back, but not by himself. Apparently, he had gotten married and was wearing a plain silver wedding band around his finger. His wife had the same, and after a wedding, it should be a joyful time filled with merriment and happiness. But this was not the case. If anything, the town felt lonelier and people felt more distant from one another. The interactions with the Hollow Man became less and less. And then one day he vanished, and his wife left eventually. Even the house stopped talking. That is, until the smell arrived at everyone's doorstep. My grandmother says she never saw the body but knew that he had been killed, most likely by his wife. Apparently, he was a painter and used the town as inspirations for his works. Always black and white, but this isn't where the story ended. No. My grandma swears after that day she started seeing the Hollow Man. He would be inside his house looking out through the window, but this time that voice that told them to look was no longer there. And she looked, and what she saw were two gaping sockets where his eyes should have been. The worst part was she could feel him staring at her. The eyes that no longer existed, they were burrowing into her soul. Even when she didn't look at him, those eyes looked at her. She said following that day, he has been looking at her and following her. And she said that just the other day she looked into his eyes and saw her death. She saw herself falling down the stairs and then never waking up again. A week after that, she was going into the bathroom and slipped and fell down the stairs and died. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I started feeling someone staring at me in my bedroom last night. I knew no one was there, but I could feel that voice telling me to turn around, and I followed it. In the corner of my room, there he stood, the Hollow Man. Wearing a suit that looked like he had been in the dirt, his hands were pale and bony, his stomach small, but at the same time it bulged like he was holding something in. His thin neck struggling with the weight of holding up his head, his mouth sewn shut, and his nose ever so slightly too small for his face. Then I looked into his eyes, and I saw it. I saw myself being pushed out of my window by someone who I don't know. I don't know if it's a prophecy or if he makes these deaths happen. But whatever you do, don't look in the hollow man's eyes, because that was nearly a week ago, and I swear I can hear a rustling in the closet. My, Asylum. Do you know anyone who's seen the hollow man? Have they looked into his eyes? Are they still alive to tell the tale? Well, if you enjoyed this tale, you can find Ollie on Reddit, linked in the description. And if you have a story that you would like narrated by me, you can reach me through email at justmygemini@gmail.com. Until next Friday, good night. And don't let the monster under the bed bite.